Sigh. Number 8. Cast lots for his clothes. Matthew 27 speaks of this being fulfilled in Psalms, and that's being Psalms 22 verse 18. Yep, another non-prophecy. Psalm speaks of it as one event, and the Gospels speaking of it as separate events. You know, they take off his clothes, and then they later on cast lots for it. Well, it's speaking of one event, and it is not even prophecy. It's not even prophesying, so... Number 9. No bones broken. They give 2 verses for this. Psalms 34 verse 20 and Exodus 12 verse 46. Well, yet again, Psalms this is not talking about a Messiah. It's talking about how God protects the righteous. And Exodus is just lining out a sacrifice of a Paschal's lamb, which is not for the atonement of sin. There we go again. Man, it sucks to be a prophecy about Jesus, doesn't it? Buried in a rich man's tomb. They use Isaiah 53 verse 9. Again, let's read this in context. Well, it begins somewhere after verse 13 in chapter 52. Well, it goes on in verse 14 that this man is extremely ugly. So there's no mention in the Gospels that Jesus is extremely ugly. Not only that, if this is an obvious fulfillment of Scripture, why none of the Gospels even claim this as fulfillment? You see? Because a lot of Gospels, they already knew Isaiah, and cited Isaiah fulfillment in other passages where he fulfills this, but when this happens, they cite no passage. So obviously, this application does not apply. They don't even think it did. And they claim, let's go to number 11. In Daniel 9, they claim that it predicts the year, hour, and day of his death. They also say Exodus 12, verse 6 does this. Well, Exodus is not speaking of the Messiah. Yet again, it's laying out sacrificial rules. Nothing about a Messiah. Daniel 9 is another problem. All the scholars interpret the days in Daniel as years, giving a 483 years until Jesus' ministry and death. Well, the problem is that the countdown starts at the issuing of the decree of the restoring and rebuilding of Jerusalem. That was done by King Cyrus in 538 BCE, putting Jesus' ministry at 55 BCE. Well, that's a little early, isn't it? Well, scholars tried to change that by going by various different decrees, but still they yet to either fulfill that, being the decree of rebuilding Jerusalem. They're either choosing the rebuilding of the walls or something, or some other decrees, which is actually referring back to the decree of Cyrus. They either still put it either too early or too late for the ministry of Jesus. And further, the problem is that the punctuation doesn't allow for these interpretations, because it has a messianic punctuation. Well, not only that is a problem for Daniel, in the sense of that you can't have that punctuation there because Daniel was written before that. Oops. And another thing, it changes the interpretation, and it really doesn't allow for these changes. There's a whole lot I can go into on this subject alone, but I think I'll provide links that explain this more. Number 12. Raised from the dead on the third day. Hosea chapter 6 verse 2. Yet again, surprise, surprise, another non-prophecy. Reading it in context, it talks about people being revived on the second day and restored on the third. Well, Jesus' resurrection was not like this. He was alive on the third day, not revived on the second. So, and these are just the 12 major prophecies about Jesus, and none of them can be shown to even be a prophecy. And so what can we draw from this? Well, a lot of these prophecies are obviously post hoc, especially by the gospel writers that claim these as fulfillment. They have only a vague idea of these prophecies, and apparently they're trying to convince the Jewish people that, this Jesus is their Messiah. But they're, even under the slightest of scrutinies, these claims fall completely flat on their face. So that ends my discussion here. I can go on more on this fucking forever. There's a whole lot. There's a whole lot more so-called prophecy that Jesus fulfills. I may make another video on this. And all those prophecies also fall flat on their face. So anyone who claims that Jesus is the fulfillment of the Old Testament is either ignorant or a liar. So, probably mostly the former instead of the latter, though. They can be a liar lying to themselves. Next week I'm going to do end time prophecies. What Jesus says about the end times, and what do the apostles think the end time was coming. And that's going to be a good one too. So remember, people, rationality is the path to righteousness. Peace.